The world's two largest carbon emitters, China and the US, have delivered a surprise announcement at the COP26 climate summit this morning. The two superpowers issued a joint pledge to reduce emissions. Let's get the latest from our US correspondent Annelise Nielsen, now live in Washington, DC. Annelise, this did come as quite a shock to those who were watching the final days of this summit.
It did indeed, because China seemed very reluctant to participate on any level. We saw the Chinese president decline the opportunity to appear with world leaders for those opening days of the conference. And the focus has really died down on the conference in that those world leaders have returned home, and this was down to the negotiating levels of their respective administrations. And so this is why this is quite a shock to see this announcement come through in the last few days. The US has said that these negotiations have been going on for the last year, and there's been dozens of meetings between the two countries around getting to this joint agreement. In it, there isn't a lot of detail about exactly how they're going to undertake this new collective goal, but what they have said is that they do want to, in the next decade or so, aim to not have the world warm up by more than 2 degrees, certainly no more than 1.5. And so they're aiming for under 2 degrees in this. In that, they've also said that they're going to focus on issues like deforestation and methane emissions, I should say, and that's going to be how they're going to counter some of these carbon issues. But the significance of this goes beyond that. This is a huge moment in the US and China coming together on an issue when they've been at loggerheads about plenty of other issues, including trade is probably the first and foremost in this, but also the fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic and the ongoing calls for an investigation into the origin of that. This is an historic moment in that they have found something that they can come together on, and this was climate envoy John Kerry making the announcement.
This declaration makes a statement about that effort to cooperate, about the imperative to cooperate. It declares specifically and identifies the need to accelerate the transition to a global net zero economy. Second, it commits to a series of important actions, not in the long term, not way out in the future, but now during this decade when it's needed.
Meanwhile, Annelise, we're also watching Kamala Harris's visit to France again to soothe those tensions over the submarine fallout.
Yeah, look, speaking of working with counterparts around the world, this has been a big one for the Biden administration to deal with since the cancellation of the Australian submarine contract. It wasn't, of course, the actual substance of it itself, but it seems to be how the French were told that's caused so much hurt feeling. And that's where America's really dropped Australia in it, saying, well, we thought Australia was letting the French know, and this is why they've been on this huge charm offensive in the meantime, trying to rebuild those relations. They rely on France for so many critical discussions around NATO, around trade with Europe, and there's been the whole process of reopening travel between Europe and the United States as well during the pandemic. So they weren't keen to lose any face on this. This is also a big moment for Kamala Harris. She's really facing a tough time in the polls at the moment here. She's, I think, under 30% now in the latest polling for her approval, which is pretty dismal for someone who wants to take a run at the White House. So she wants this moment to try and be the statesperson as well. And so she's been dispatched to smooth tensions with French President Emmanuel Macron, and they're meeting as we speak.
It's not only a sign of the current state of the relationship and our dedication to the future, but it is also an incredible statement about the history of the relationship between France and the United States on many issues, but in particular on scientific research.
I should clarify that was Kamala Harris yesterday on her first day in Paris when she was at a science institute that's helped develop some of the COVID-19 vaccines, that's helped bring the pandemic to heel, but she's going to be there for 5 days too. Quite a long visit for a vice president going to a foreign country.
Do you suspect, Annelise, it is going to be a wipeout for the Democrats next year?
I think if they held it tomorrow, they would be in for some real pain. A lot can happen in a year.
You are right.
But I think the things to watch out for is going to be the economic pain fallout. They keep saying, oh, look, unemployment claims are going down. Yeah, of course, you're not going to claim unemployment if there's nothing to claim. People are still having a lot of time paying their bills.
Yeah,
so
inflation
I think
today.
The pandemic's moving on. Yeah.
Highest in 31 years. We're seeing that this morning. Annelise, appreciate that as always. Talk to you soon.